Have you ever felt like you're working harder, earning more, and making smarter financial choices, yet your bank account doesn't seem to reflect that progress? It's a frustrating paradox many of us experience, especially when prices keep climbing. This feeling isn't just in your head. It's a common economic reality that can make even significant financial gains feel invisible. One of the most frustrating things people say during periods of rising prices is this: "I'm doing better than I used to, but it doesn't feel like it." This sentiment is incredibly common among young adults starting their careers, seasoned investors watching their portfolios, students managing budgets, and the general public trying to make ends meet. Your income may be higher, your spending might be more controlled, and your overall financial stability may have improved. And yet, despite these tangible improvements, the sense of progress feels muted or incredibly hard to recognize. If inflation has ever made your diligent effort feel invisible, this video is designed to explain precisely why that experience is so common and deeply rooted in economic principles. We aim to provide clarity, not just comfort, about this pervasive financial challenge. Before we delve deeper, let's clearly define the scope of this discussion. This video is not about motivation. It won't tell you to simply think positive about your financial situation. It's not about pushing an unrealistic sense of optimism or suggesting that you should feel satisfied when your efforts don't seem to yield the expected results. Our goal is purely educational and informative. By the end of this video, you will understand the fundamental economic reasons why inflation can obscure real financial progress. You'll learn how rising price levels distort traditional comparisons of wealth and income, and why this disconnect between effort and perceived reward is a structural economic issue rather than a personal failing. The objective here is to equip you with clarity and a more accurate framework for evaluating your financial journey, free from undue encouragement or pressure. Financial progress is typically measured by comparison. We instinctively ask ourselves, is this easier than before? Do I have more financial room now? Does this feel more sustainable for the long term? These are natural and valid questions that guide our perception of financial well-being. However, inflation fundamentally complicates these comparisons. When the general level of prices for goods and services rises over time, any improvement in your financial standing often gets absorbed into higher costs. This means that while progress still objectively exists, it doesn't register in the same tangible, satisfying way it would during periods of stable prices. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. You're adding water, but the level doesn't rise as quickly as you'd expect. When price levels reset upward, the entire economic baseline shifts. This phenomenon is crucial for budgeters and investors to understand. An increase in your income, which in normal times would feel like a significant step forward, may now primarily serve to cover these higher costs. It might restore your previous level of stability or, in some cases, simply prevent a decline in your purchasing power. Crucially, this income increase often fails to create a genuine sense of advancement or improved comfort. Progress feels fundamentally different when its primary function is spent maintaining your current position rather than expanding your financial capabilities or improving your quality of life. Inflation, in essence, often transforms what would otherwise be genuine financial gains into mere maintenance of the status quo. This can be particularly disheartening for young adults striving to build wealth and students trying to manage their limited funds. This frustrating experience is frequently misinterpreted as personal stagnation or a lack of effective effort. Many people find themselves thinking, "I should be further ahead by now. Why doesn't this feel easier, despite my hard work? Am I doing something wrong with my money?" These self-doubts are understandable, but often misplaced. The reality is that inflation changes the very measuring stick we use for financial progress. When the yardstick itself moves, your actual progress doesn't disappear. It just appears smaller or less impactful when measured against the new, higher baseline. Understanding this economic principle allows us to reframe our efforts as effective and valuable, even when the emotional feeling of progress lags behind the objective reality. It reassures us that our hard work is indeed making a difference, even if it's primarily in maintaining our position against a rising tide. This feeling of making progress without truly feeling it is not a new phenomenon. It has a consistent historical context. Periods of significant inflation have often coincided with this exact sentiment across different generations and economies. For instance, during the high inflation era of the 1970s, many households in developed economies saw their nominal incomes rise considerably. However, despite these higher paychecks, a widespread sentiment of little real advancement prevailed. This was because the rapidly increasing costs of everyday goods, housing, and energy absorbed a substantial portion of those income gains. People were earning more, but their purchasing power was often stagnant or even declining. This historical pattern teaches us a valuable lesson. Whenever inflation resets price levels, financial progress becomes inherently harder to feel, even when objective improvements are being made. It's a recurring economic challenge, not a personal failing. Our minds are wired to track progress emotionally, not purely mathematically. We tend to notice what feels easier in our daily lives, what feels tighter on our budgets, and what tangible changes have occurred day to day. This emotional feedback loop is a powerful motivator and indicator of our well-being. Inflation, however, severely interferes with this crucial feedback mechanism. When financial improvement, such as a raise or increased savings, is primarily directed toward covering higher costs for essentials like groceries, rent, or transportation, the emotional signal of progress weakens significantly. The money is being used effectively, but it doesn't translate into the extra comfort or freedom that typically signals advancement. This doesn't mean that progress is absent. It simply means that our perception of progress lags behind the objective financial reality. It's a disconnect that can be particularly challenging for young adults and students who are just beginning to build their financial foundations. To truly grasp why inflation makes progress feel elusive, it's helpful to understand its mechanics. Inflation is typically measured by indices like the Consumer Price Index, CPI, which tracks the average change over time in the prices paid by urban consumers for a market basket of consumer goods and services. When the CPI rises, it means your money buys less than it did before. This erosion of purchasing power is the core issue. If your income increases by 3%, but inflation is running at 5%, your real income has actually decreased by 2%. You have more money in your pocket, but its value has diminished. This is why budgeters find their carefully planned expenses suddenly insufficient, and investors see the real return on their investments shrink, even if the nominal returns look good. Understanding this distinction between nominal and real values is fundamental to financial literacy. Inflation is often called a silent thief because it erodes the value of your savings and investments over time without any overt action. For students saving for tuition or young adults building an emergency fund, every dollar saved today will have less purchasing power tomorrow if inflation persists. This makes long-term financial planning more complex. Investors, too, must contend with inflation. While stocks and real estate can sometimes act as a hedge against inflation, fixed income investments like bonds can be particularly vulnerable. The interest earned might be outpaced by the rate of inflation, leading to a negative real return. This necessitates a strategic approach to portfolio diversification and a clear understanding of real versus nominal returns to ensure your investments are truly growing your wealth. For budgeters, inflation demands a more dynamic approach to personal finance. Your old budget might quickly become obsolete as prices for essentials like food, fuel, and utilities climb. This isn't a sign of poor budgeting. It's a reflection of changing economic conditions. To navigate this, regularly review and adjust your budget. Prioritize essential spending and look for areas where you can cut back or find alternatives. Consider needs versus wants more critically. For example, if grocery prices are soaring, exploring different stores, buying in bulk, or planning meals more carefully can help mitigate the impact. Understanding inflation empowers you to make these proactive adjustments rather than feeling helpless. Given these economic realities, a more accurate and reassuring way to think about financial progress during periods of inflation is essential. We must broaden our definition of progress beyond mere expansion of wealth or comfort. Sometimes, progress isn't about acquiring more. It's about achieving stability. Sometimes, it's about building resilience. If inflation is rising significantly, simply maintaining your current financial position, avoiding debt, or preserving your purchasing power can represent a very real and significant improvement. It means you are effectively navigating challenging economic currents. Understanding this nuanced perspective helps individuals, from students to seasoned investors, evaluate their financial journey without unnecessary discouragement or self-blame. It allows for a more realistic and ultimately more empowering assessment of your financial health. Beyond understanding the economic principles, developing mental strategies to cope with the inflationary mindset is crucial. First, focus on your real financial health, not just nominal figures. Track your purchasing power over time. Second, celebrate small victories in maintaining your financial stability, such as sticking to your budget despite rising costs, or successfully negotiating a raise that keeps pace with inflation. Third, educate yourself continuously about economic trends. The more you understand about inflation, interest rates, and market dynamics, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions and adjust your financial plans. This proactive approach can transform feelings of frustration into a sense of control and empowerment, even when external economic conditions are challenging. Let's return to the core idea that underpins this entire discussion. Inflation can make financial progress significantly harder to feel because rising prices absorb gains and fundamentally shift our reference points for what constitutes improvement. This happens even when real, objective financial progress is being made in your income, savings, or overall stability. Recognizing this crucial distinction between a lack of actual progress and a lack of perceived progress is incredibly liberating. It allows you to acknowledge your efforts and achievements without being derailed by the emotional disconnect caused by inflation. This clarity restores perspective, helping you to evaluate your financial journey more calmly and accurately, even when broader economic conditions remain challenging and uncertain. It empowers you to continue making smart financial decisions with a clearer understanding of their true impact. Please like this video if you have enjoyed it. Every like truly encourages us to create helpful content that demystifies complex financial topics. Thank you for watching, and have a blessed day.